We're going to talk about JavaScript buttons and how you can use them in your Salesforce instance to kind of simplify the user experience and make some things a little bit cleaner for your particular organization. I've had quite a bit of development experience using Apex and Visualforce controllers at Salesforce.com for a few years now. I do a lot of consulting as well, helping implement Salesforce.com. I've uncovered that I actually use JavaScript buttons a lot more often when I have a simple task that I don't want to build an entire Visualforce page for or something like that, and in turn use the the JavaScript buttons to kind of enact a series of functions that can simplify the interface and make things a lot more intuitive for the user. So JavaScript, being a client-side function, allows you to write code and have the browser execute some code, allowing the user to interact directly with the browser in a real-time, quick fashion without having to hit the server. So therefore, no Apex code is necessary. So what we're going to talk about is how to just build a basic JavaScript button, how to put it on your page, and how to make it send out some alerts, have a confirmed dialog box, yes or no, do you want to continue. Also allow a JavaScript function to enter a note, and then also a function that allows you to update the record that JavaScript button was invoked from. So let's go over that. I'm going to create an example here, and we're literally going to build it on Salesforce, and then we're going to see it in action as we go. So what I'm going to do, you'll notice right here, I'm just in the developer org that I've had for some time. We're going to create a custom button. So to do that, we're going to come over to our name, click on Setup. It's going to take us to our administrative panels. And over here, we're going to click on Customize and go to Opportunities. And we're going to create a button. So let's click on Buttons, Links, and Actions. Click on New Button or Link. And now we're going to call this My JavaScript Button. And we're going to make it a detail page button. And we want it to execute JavaScript, and we want the function, the content source, to be onClick JavaScript. So to do this, what we now need to do is we need to put into this pane here our JavaScript code. Now JavaScript is kind of loosely written, and we also don't have to define data variables per se. We do define variables, but they don't have to be data specific. So we can create a variable to put information in and then use that to either run logic against or to play around with. So let's, for kicks, whenever you're doing a JavaScript button, Salesforce requires that you request the JavaScript library information, which is this right here. All of your JavaScript buttons have to have a require script tag at the beginning right there. And this is the one I always use. I think there's a newer version of it, but that require script, SOAP, Ajax 29.0, connection.js is the one that I almost always use. And I don't know if there's a more updated one or not, but it seems to always work. So you need to make sure you have that, otherwise your button's not going to work. Okay, so I don't know how much familiarity we have with JavaScript specifically, but we can create a variable at any time just by declaring var x. And now I've created a variable, and it's irrelevant what the data type is. But I can pass data right now that's going to be a string or text right into that variable by going like this. X is equal to, this is my X value. And then I close it off with a semicolon right there. And now that I've done that, I've now passed in a variable. So if I were to click this button, it would pass that value into my X. But the only way for me to debug that in a real-time function would be to throw an alert to show me what exactly I'm looking at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an alert box that says, this is X plus X. So now what I'm going to do is I put some text in my alert that says, this is X, and then I'm going to display what X is. And let's actually do that. We can execute this now. So let's click on Quick Save. It'll tell you if you violated something dramatic, usually, but it doesn't look like there's any syntax errors. Be cautious with this, though. It's looking for major syntax errors. Sometimes your JavaScript doesn't work right away because there is a syntax error and it doesn't tell you right here. So this is kind of misleading sometimes. But we did save it. So what we need to do is we need to put it on the page layout. And then we're going to look at it in an opportunity. So let's take this page layout. Let's add the button to it. As soon as it loads, we'll grab our JavaScript button and we will throw it onto our detail page like that. Click Save. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up a record, refresh that page. Here's our JavaScript button. And if we click on the JavaScript button, it tells us this is X, this is my X value. And then we click OK. So now we've just created a dialog or an alert box that tells us, hey, here's something going on. So if you want someone just to be alerted of something in Salesforce, like if the close date is not right or the value is too high or something like that, you can click on something and have it just alert them, hey, you know, that doesn't look quite right or something like that. That's helpful if you just need to pass an alert to the user. So now let's expand on that. We'll go back to our JavaScript code here, and then we're going to create, just to demonstrate, let's create another variable. We're going to call it y, and then we're going to say y is equal to 10, just like that. Whoops. Now you'll notice we'll also put an alert in here so we can see what it says. We'll quick save that. You'll notice my var y right here is not a string. I'm just passing a decimal value or some sort of integer in there. And like I said before, it doesn't matter the data type, it'll accept anything. So we'll come up here, we'll quick save. I believe I just did that. Now if I click on my opportunity right here, my JavaScript button, it gives me the alert from before, but it didn't give me the Y, and that's because I didn't refresh my page. So let's refresh that real quick. And then we'll click on our JavaScript button. That's my X value, and that's my Y value. Oops, that's my Y alert, but I didn't include Y. My apologies. And Y should be equal to 10. So we'll come back here, click on my JavaScript button. That's my X value. This is my Y value, which is 10. Okay, so now let's go back to our button. Okay, let's expand on that then. So now that we've got two variables in there, let's also create another variable. But this one is going to be coming from the page actually. So we're going to pass into our JavaScript function, we're going to pass a value from the page. So if we look at our opportunity, let's pull in, say, lead source. Right now, lead source is blank. So let's actually pull this blank value into our JavaScript button. So here's how you're going to do that. We're going to say var z is equal to, create my open and close parenthesis, and right here what I'm going to do on the opportunity record, I'm going to grab my lead source field, and I'm going to populate that into my my variable z. And then let's create an alert so we'll make sure we know what it's saying. So we know it's being populated. This is z, and then we're going to say plus z, close that like so. Let's click on quick save. Then let's open up our opportunity again, refresh that page. Click on the button. This is my X value. This is my Y value. And this is my Z value, and there's nothing there. And part of that is because there's nothing in my field. Let's change this to web and see what happens. Click my JavaScript button. This is X. This is Y. This is Z. And yes, indeed, it did pull in my lead source. Now that's great. So now that I know that Z is true, that it's a web, I can now take that web value and run some logic against it. So when something's executed, it populates Z, and now from Z I can say, okay, well if it's web, let's do something. So let's try that right now. Let's go back to our JavaScript button over here. Now that we know Z is web and populated, let's create another variable just for kicks here. we're going to say, we're going to create a variable and we're going to call this A. So let's go variable A, and then we're going to put a condition in here. And we're going to say if Z is equal, you have to have the double equals because it's looking for a Boolean response, yes or no. If Z is equal to web, open and close these brackets here, we want A to be equal to something. So we're going to say, hang on a second here. If Z is equal to web, we want A to equal the lead source is web. So we want it to tell us for sure that it's web. And then we're going to say otherwise. So we'll say else. We want it to say something else. A is equal to the lead source is not web. And we'll see if that works, and we'll close that bracket out for that else statement as well. Okay, so let's save that. No major syntax errors, so I think we're okay. Come up here. Whoops, that's the page. Refresh our page so the new JavaScript is brought into the browser. We'll click my JavaScript button. That's X. That's Y. Z is web. Uh-oh, something happened. How come the next portion didn't execute? Hang on. I can figure this out. If Z is equal to web, A should be equal to that. Otherwise, A should be equal to the lead source is not web. Did I not save this? Maybe that's the problem. Go back and run that again and see. Click my JavaScript button. This is my X value, that's my Y, Z is web, and still nothing. Hang on a second, this worked a minute ago. Let me just copy and paste my code from over here. Maybe I did something wrong. Hang on. Oh, I know why. So it is occurring, I just don't have an alert to tell me that it's occurring. So alert, we want to say this is a, and then we want to go like this, plus show me the variable. There we go. That's why it's not working. Click Save. Refresh my page. And then we'll say my JavaScript button. Click on that. That's my X. That's my Y. This is Z. The lead source is web, which is true over here. Well, let's make sure that it works when it's not web. Let's go partner referral and see what happens. My JavaScript button, X, Y, Z. The lead source is not web. So you can see in my if condition, it is telling me and populating A with a different line, the lead source is web or the lead source is not web, whether or not Z is equal to a web. So now you can see I'm writing logic against the value from the page, passing it into my JavaScript, making some adjustments, and in turn returning a response in my alert right there. Well, that's real helpful if all we want to do is, have a bunch of alerts telling the user about something that's going on. But what we need to do is let's actually make some interaction a little bit with the page as well. So let's come down here back to our JavaScript page. Scroll down. You'll see over here also, you do have some functions you can include that some of which I've seen do interact well with JavaScript, some don't. So you can use those to write some logic, but we're not going to go quite into that depth today. So let's create a new variable actually. Let's call this var t. So we're going to go var t. Oops. And for t, we're going to put another if condition in here. If z is not equal to web, we want something to happen. But if z is equal to web, we want something else to happen. And what we're going to do, if z is web, we want t to be equal to true. And I'm going to use t for something in a little bit here. So if z is equal to web, Oops, let's change that around. If Z is equal to web and Z is not equal to web. If Z is equal to web, we want T to be true. If Z is not equal to web, we want T to be equal to false. And then, just for kicks so we know what's going on, let's put an alert in here. This is T. Obviously, when you're done, you don't need all these alerts, but I'm keeping them in there just for the sake of understanding what's going on. Okay. So now that I have T in there and it's populated with a yes or no based on what I need, we're going to create another variable and we're going to call it B. Var B. And for the sake of, let's hang on, so var B. And down here, we want to write another if statement. If T is equal to true, we want something to occur. We want to have a confirmation box that's going to tell us something. So we're going to say if T is equal to true, we want to run another if condition. If, and then I'm going to put a confirm box in there. And this works as such. I want a confirmation to take place, meaning a yes or no, hey, there's something going on. And so let's put some text in our confirm box. And I want that confirm box to look like this. Hang on, I'm just going to copy and paste it so I don't have to type it in. If T is equal to true, our confirm box should read, you're about to set the status for this opportunity to complete. Clicking OK will complete this opportunity. Are you sure you want to continue? And if it's equal to true, we want to execute some more code. And by executing the more code, we're going to set B equal to true. Oops. B equal to true. Otherwise, we want, we'll put an else statement in there. Otherwise, we want B equal to false. And then we're going to close that and close the other one. And now let's actually look at that. So let's click save. And assuming I don't have any severe errors that the browser doesn't recognize, we should be okay here. So let's execute my JavaScript button. Yeah. Hang on a second. I'll probably put something funny in here. You guys might see the syntax error sooner than I will, so give me a second. C is equal to web. Okay. If T is equal to true, execute this code. Okay, hang on a second. Oh, there it is. I didn't put a closing quotation on there. Okay, so let's go back, refresh our page. Now let's execute it. Oh, still missing something. Hang on. Even though you can see it did tell me, hey, there's no syntax errors, but indeed there is a syntax error, so I just have to find it. Hang on a moment. If not, I'll copy and paste it from my notes here. Oh, there it is. I opened it with double quotes and I closed it with single quotes. All right, so that should be saved. We'll come back here, refresh that page. Let's execute our JavaScript button again. Okay, still a problem, so let's take a look at it. And you do occur, whenever you're playing with Java, it usually takes me several tries to get it to work for me. So sometimes it takes a minute. Hang on a second, if you'll bear with me. Plus T, if T is equal to true. Hang on a moment. B is equal to true, false. All right, let me just copy and paste it from my notes here. That way I know I've got the working version of it. Because I'm sure it's just a syntax error. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if we have an error now. Refresh our page and execute the JavaScript again. That's my X value. That's my Y. This is the Z, partner referral. The lead source is not web, so T is therefore false. If T is false, we don't want to proceed. Okay? So if I change this, however, to web now, and click Save, and then we click our JavaScript button. This is my X value. This is Y. This is Z. The lead source is web, not web. T is therefore true. You're about to set the status for this opportunity to complete. Do you want to continue, yes or no? So when I click OK, nothing happens because I don't have any additional code behind that. But inside my code, I do have this. When I click on OK and it goes to true, I therefore set this variable here to true. Otherwise, it goes to false. So now let's make some code based on that variable B. So let's come in here. If B is therefore equal to true, let's make something happen. Let's come in here and we'll put that in. If B is equal to true, let's make something happen. We're actually going to prompt them to enter a note. And we're going to pass that into a new variable. And here's how a note works. So I'm going to create a new variable and I'm calling it var note. And that note will prompt the user to enter information with something that says provide notes for this completion, and then a comma. And after this comma, if I enter some additional comments right here, that'll be in place of where they're going to be typing. So if B is equal to true, this is going to occur. And let's come down here and close that logic. So let's click Quick Save. And then we will come up to our opportunity to reload the page. Click on my JavaScript button again, assuming there's no syntax errors. This is X, this is Y, this is Z, this is the lead source. We know that's true. Yep, T is true. Here's my OK. Now if I click on OK, I should be prompted to enter some information to populate a variable. And sure enough, here is a prompt box that entered up. So it's a script prompt. Provide notes for this completion. And it says enter completion notes here. So let's put in some notes. These are my notes. And then we'll click on OK. And it ends. Now if I could put another alert in there to tell me, hey, you've now populated this other variable, which is your notes variable, but I don't want to display that on the page. I actually want to update the record with some notes that I put into that prompt box. So here's how I'm going to do it. So I did populate note with the value, and it returned a value into that variable. So now we're going to come in here and say, if I click on true and I enter notes, I want something to happen. I actually want an update to take place on the page. So I'm going to click on my code here, and I'm going to enter this. Now this is required if you want to update your record back in Salesforce. You have to enter this syntax right here. var new records equals open and close square bracket and a semicolon. And then I'm going to do this. Whoops, before I do that, I need to say a variable which is going to be my Salesforce object. I have to declare it here. var o equals new sforce.s object, and I'm telling it it's an opportunity record. Okay, and I'm giving it a variable name, which is O. Okay, now what I want is I want to say the O.id, which is the ID for that opportunity, it can be lowercase, is going to be equal to open and close brackets, semicolon, and we're actually going to grab the ID from the page, which is going to be opportunity, where's ID at? I can't find it up here. Doesn't matter. You can just type it this way. You have to have this ID, otherwise it's not going to work because it won't know what ID to update. So we're going to say opportunity dot ID, and then we're going to close that bracket and make sure it's in the double quotes with a semicolon. Now it knows what ID to update. And then we're going to say o.status, which is a custom field I have on the opportunity. It looks like this. It's just under that web right there. There's the status field, and it's blank right now. We're going to populate it. O.status is going to be equal to, we'll just put a value in there, completed or something like that. And then we want the O.description field to take the value from our note that we're going to populate on that prompt box. So O.description is going to be equal to the note value variable that we populate. Now, something else that's required in order to update that record in Salesforce, you've got to come in and you've got to type new records dot push the variable O, and then close it with a semicolon. And then I have to have, result is equal to Salesforce.connection dot update new records. Now you see new records is the name of the variable, which is inside these brackets right here. So then we'll populate new records with the O value, which is what we're populating here with that ID. Okay. Now, when I update that record, I would like to alert the user that that function has been completed and that indeed the record has been updated. So I'm going to say this: the status is completed. And therefore, they'll get notified that everything worked exactly as they expected. Only issue is this, though. Once I put this alert in here, they'll get alerted, but the page will look the same. So I've got to refresh that page so that they can see, oh, yeah, my status has changed. That function worked. So what you do at that point is you call the window.reload, or sorry, .location, .reload function, and in turn, it will reload that page. Now, when B is equal to false, nothing happens. So they'll just click cancel, and nothing happens. If they hit B, they have to be prompted to put information, and then all these records get updated. I'm sorry, this one record gets updated, and the page reloads. So let's click on Quick Save. No major syntax errors, even though sometimes that's misleading. We'll come up to Opportunity. We'll refresh that page. And assuming I didn't screw it up, it should work. So let's click on my JavaScript button. This is my X value. This is Y. This is Z, which is equal to web. We know the lead source is web, so we're good. T is equal to true. That's good. And then I get prompted. If I click cancel, nothing should happen because I just jumped out of that process. If I click on JavaScript button, we'll go through these variables again. Now I click OK. You're about to reset the status for the opportunity to complete. Clicking OK will complete this opportunity. You sure you want to continue? Yeah, I do want to continue. We'll click on OK. Now I've got to enter some notes. These are my demo notes. Click OK. Hey, the status is now complete. We're going to refresh the page. And now we've completed that status, and the description now has my notes. So now I can update the page directly from that JavaScript after I put some logic in there. I can even calculate some dates. I can calculate some numbers. I can take a couple of strings, throw them together, and in turn, without having to do a whole lot of major coding through JavaScript alone, I can have just a client-side experience on the browser that's quick and relatively seamless and easy for the client. Now, where a JavaScript button comes in handy is if there's a common function that people need to come in and click on or do, and you don't want people to forget to update a field or something like that. So if you had a button that says, you've touched a client or something, and hit that button, and it has an incrementer that takes maybe status is a number field, and it starts with number 1, and the first time you run it, it goes to 1, second time you run it goes to 2, second time you run it goes to 3, and therefore you can run workflow off of that. And this can be, one thing to keep in mind though, this field has to be on the page layout, otherwise the JavaScript won't work. So keep that in mind. So if I remove this status field from the page layout, then what happens is the JavaScript will not be able to run against that status field if it's not on the page layout. So we've got to keep that in mind. So just by doing a few things like this, we now have a relatively slick user experience to your JavaScript button for your users. So let's take a look at that again, make sure we're happy with it. Let's do one like this real quick here. Obviously, if it's not web, it's not web, so therefore we don't move forward, right? If T is fault, we don't proceed. But if we change it to web, then we get that nice user experience, which forces the user to have to engage with the page to do certain things, and in turn, we can guarantee some data consistency and things like that, and also prompt them to do the right thing. So we'll say, do the right thing. And then we'll click OK. It's now complete, updated. Our description is now do the right thing, and we're now completed.